Council meeting to order. Please join us in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. The first part of our meeting tonight is called the joint town EDA and town council meeting together. So I'm turning it over to the chairman of the EDA, Mr. Butcham, so he can call his the EDA to order.
Okay. Julia, could you do a roll call? We're
Mr. Buttram,
here.
Mr. Sensitive,
Here.
Ms. Scott,
Here.
Mr. Turner,
Here.
Ms. Crumpacker, absent, Mr. Kirkpatrick,
Here.
Ms. Brown, absent.
Thank you. We have a quorum, Chairman.
Okay. So what's going on tonight? We've got Mr. McCormick here from Waukesha Development to just kind of give us an update on what's going on at the Bedford Middle School project. Obviously, that is a major project that the town and the county, the town and the EDA entered into. And we all have got a vested interest in that project here and within the community. So this is an informational meeting tonight. We're going to hear from Dave. We're going to ask Dave some questions and see where we move from here. Obviously, Mr. McCormick, I'm sure, is aware there's some concern in the community about the progress with the project a little bit. So ultimately we want to try to figure out a way to get this moving forward and see this project come to completion. Just for some informational purposes, I just want to reiterate that there's a performance agreement between the developer and the EDA and the town. That performance agreement has not passed the deadline yet. We've heard that. The deadline is not till March 31st of 2024. So I just wanted to make sure that information is being reflected accurately in the community. And then, like I said, we'll ask Mr. McCormick to come up, kind of give us his thoughts, and then we'll just open it up for questions and comments. And like I said, there will be no action tonight on his request to seek an extension. This is purely an informational so that we can all, both the EDA and the town council, can gather information. With that, Mr. McCormick, could you come up and give us your thoughts? Thanks.
Great. Well, Mayor Black and members of council, thanks so much for having me. I always appreciate the opportunity to come and update everybody on what we're doing. We're deeply invested there, both financially and emotionally, and continue to push forward with the project. My presentation is very short, so I want to make it more about telling you what's going on, and you can ask me any questions that you like. But of course, we've had the fire. Everyone's aware of that, and that was after we had signed the agreement. So that's, I would say, the first big setback, but we've overcome that. We've got a cupola on the building, roof, we framed it up, but we've had also some really significant supply chain issues. The biggest one is with our electric system. We had applied for a permit under what we call a whole house meter, which we do on lots of different jobs these days. And it was only until we applied for the permit that we found out that the town of Blackstone is not in the code. That's actually in the town policy. And Mike and I talked about that. We've had extensive conversation with John, the power company, about it. But it turns out that town policy is not to allow a whole house meter, but to individually meter the units. That required us to re-engineer the building, the power of it, and to reorder the switchgear. That switchgear has a 1-year lead time. That is why, and the power is a big part of the building. You can't sheetrock, couldn't even price it for a while until we engineered it. But we can't sheetrock over walls that don't have power, et cetera. So we're waiting, not for the switchgear to get here, But we know that that's gonna take a while to get here. So the job is moving a little more slowly than we hoped, and it's that simple. There's no funding issues, there's no manpower issues, there's no subcontractor issues, there are no other issues. I think our commitment to the project into Bedford, plainly apparent. We're deeply invested here in other projects. So we're happy to be working there. We've actually had HVAC guys there this week. We had plumbers there, putting underground plumbing in and doing that kind of work. The framing is done. As you can see, the roof is on it, the windows are in. I think the building's looking good. So I really don't have any other update. That's where we are with the project. But that switchgear issue is significant, and it can't be one that, it's not a minor thing. And I think for lay people that, the public that sees, little activity, it's hard for them to understand what goes on day to day on the job. But that's why I'm glad to be here giving updates to everybody. So with that, ask away if anyone's got questions about what else might be happening, I'm happy to answer.
Who wants to start?
Okay,
Mr. Hartman.
first of all, got a couple of questions. One, first, your supplies, are you only getting from one supplier or did you shop around? My second one is, what are you doing for security other than the fence?
Yeah, well, we always shop everything around VE and do everything we can to get not only the best price, but the quickest time. We've shopped this particular switchgear. It's industrial switchgear. It's not just like switchgear you have in a home. This is big, big stuff. And we've also tried to work with the town to expedite getting some of that gear here through its various channels that did not work out. So we've shopped it significantly. And this question about security is, we do everything we can to keep the building secure. We can't board anything. We have windows in there now. But really, it's just a matter of making sure we're locked up every night. We do have the fence. We are also, our subcontractors and our site supervisor are there. And then we are regularly in touch with the police about patrolling, et cetera.
Dave, I live near this building, and it has not been secured.
Yeah, and we're aware of that. I know
it has been. You have neighbors that are very, very concerned about that. In fact, I've got 2 letters here I'd like to read into the, when we get a moment, I'll do it in comment section. But it still continues to be, the building burned once, and we want to know, there's nobody there at times for long periods of time. There has not been anybody there for months. And you can't blame the neighbors for being concerned when there has been vandalism and there has been problems with that and surrounding homes, because it's become an attractive nuisance, quite frankly, to the rest of the neighborhood. And I don't understand why we don't have some kind of security system there for one thing. When the school was built, when the school was in process, they actually had a security system in there. It was attached to everything. You couldn't move in that building without. And from my understanding, the power was turned off to all that stuff, and that's when the fire came. So I'm real concerned of what you're going to do to make sure that thing stays secure. Before I would even consider giving it an extension, I need to have known that there's going to be security there when there's no workers there. This is just, it's just a terrible situation.
Bruce, I couldn't agree with you more. And I wish we were going full steam ahead out there and could actually have people there all the time. I can't stress to you how hard we've tried to get around this power thing so I can keep everybody working and moving forward on this thing. It's really pains me. I'm more concerned than you are. That fire that happened was a horrific situation for me and our company personally. So I totally understand it.
Well,
Every time there's an issue, Gary has reached out to us when it's not closed. We try to, or somebody's broken into it. You're right about the power. We were hooked up to a transformer as the school was, and the power bill, from what I remember, was $13,000 a month to keep the power on. And we had no choice but to cut that, pull that transformer and stop that problem. If we can get power there, I mean, that would be ideal, and we could have that happening. So we need to, if you'll help me in some way solve this power problem, we can make all that happen. But for that, there's a limit to what we're able to do, but for having someone there on that property full-time just watching the store, and that's also a really difficult thing to do.
You know, there was, for example, going into the basement, it was wide open.
Yeah, that back door, someone continuously breaks into that thing and opens it up, so we've had to do, you know, what we can to keep it closed. It's been tough. It's tough when we have these slowdowns like this.
You know, I've been in the construction business for a number of years, and I know I've had everything from cabinets stolen out of the house before I could put them up to all kinds of other really terrible things happen to a house. Haven't had one burn, fortunately, over the years. I haven't done that in 20 years, but that's still what I used to do, and it can be very frustrating. But the security of it is just really, you've got the neighbors concerned to the point where they don't, you know, they want the thing finished. And the question that gets to be, how are we going to get it done? And are we going to get it done within a reasonable length of time? Now, you're saying that you put one system in there, 1 meter. That's never been this town's policy for apartments. And I think that's I don't understand that. That's a whole different thing from what I'm being told at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's unique to Bedford, I can tell you that. We do it pretty much everywhere. And we found out it's not in the code, there's no ordinance about it. Mike and I found it working, you know, it's written in the policy. You know, it's not something that a normal MEP engineer or a contractor or designer would even know to look for. We only found out upon the application.
I thought it was when this all was proposed, I thought that you were made aware of that.
Absolutely not.
That has been part of our code since at least 1984. It's required by federal policy, and you can't actually do master metering in most states. Virginia is actually exceptional in that respect.
Okay. Well, it is disturbing, like I said, to the point where we get it. You had a fire, and the building was unsecured at the time when you had the fire, and then now we're still behind the 8 ball on this whole project. So it's really frustrating, and our neighbors are just, like I said, it's become an attractive nuisance to, it is what my dad used to call those things, like putting a ladder next to a house and kids climb it and fall through the roof. You know, I mean, it's open and available to them, and I just having a real tough time figuring out why it hadn't been secured. I know we don't own the building. I don't like to tell somebody who owns a building, and you have it, I don't like to tell somebody how they have to do their business, but the building is important to the town. There's lots of these folks who went to school in that building, and it means a great deal to them. I mean, even the Old Yeller means a great deal, and I can't understate if something happens to that building, I don't want to hear about it, because the day it caught on fire, I smelled smoke in my house. I mean, it was just abominable, and I about died when I walked up there, and it's just, and I don't want to see that happen again. I mean, I'll be real blunt with you. I just don't know what we would do if anything happened to that building, and Old Yeller to boot. Why haven't you done anything with Old Yeller?
It's all one project. All in the same timeline, all interconnected, everything. It's not 2 projects. So, but that being said, if you've been inside that building, we've done a lot. The sprinkler pipe run, the plaster's fixed. I mean, the gym floor is fixed. It's mostly framed up. I mean, to say we haven't done anything is.
Well, part of the problem is communication with us. We haven't been told, you know, what's going on. I mean, that's one of the things that I think most of us are upset about. We don't know what's happening, and we don't know how far you've gotten. And maybe it's time for, you know, somebody to give us a guided tour and tell us what you're doing.
I think that's great. I mean, from my perspective, I know, like, Bart and I talk quite a bit. John and I have talked a lot about this power situation. I believe that I'm communicating. If I have a further obligation to do that with council, I'm happy to do that.
Well,
I never want to be perceived to not be transparent about what's going on, and I think we have been. But if we need to be transparent with more people, we absolutely are willing to.
yeah, look, the building, I know you own it, it's your problem, but it's also the community's.
Sure.
And it's a symbol of this community in a lot of ways. And these people care about that building. You know, if it hadn't been for that, somebody could have taken a 960 Cat and drove it through the front door. But these folks care about this building, and they want it preserved, and they want the project finished. And I can't understate how much, in walking around talking to people, I mean, this is the question that comes to me all the time. What's he doing? How far we gotten? And we go, give him the old salute that we don't know. Nobody's communicated with us to tell us where we are with the thing and how far you've gotten. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to be so negative, but it's just causing us a real heartburn.
Sure. Well, it always shocks me to think people think I don't care, or that we don't have a massive financial risk happening there, and a significant financial investment already built. It always shocks me to think people think we just want to slow it down purposely or have an incentive not to be doing something there. It makes no sense. All we want to be doing there is working.
Yeah.
It's all we want to be doing there is pushing that project forward and finishing.
Well, understand, I'm expressing what a lot of our citizens have expressed to me, and I live near it, but some of them are living right on top of it, and they constantly are concerned and make them nervous about what's going on with that building. So I'm sorry.
Well, like I say, if there's something I can do to be more communicative or transparent, I'm very, very open to that. We could do that through BART or whatever there is. Like if we could do a quarterly email to the council, I mean, whatever that is. If you want to do a tour, I'm absolutely happy to do it. No problem at all.
Well, I think that would begin to go somewhere with this thing, because we're not, like I said, people see the outside. We knew for a long time you had to order windows, and you couldn't do some of the things. So that made sense, but it's.
Well, and I don't know if you're aware of the window supply chain issue. They took 10 months. That is, I mean, these things are not fiction. They're real. And, drying in that building is, so it's hard to know or to over-communicate.
I know, putting sheetrock in a building that doesn't have windows in, I was in the plaster business for a number of years, so I know what that's all about. Yeah. I've had people do stuff like that, and everything cave in when they couldn't lock it up and keep it dry.
We ordered from Pella, the news about the Pella plant issues and the labor shortages, public information available in the Wall Street Journal. This is, I'm not making this stuff up.
How many of you folks read the Wall Street Journal out here? You know this.
It's Googleable.
But they don't.
And I'm not expecting that. I'm saying if anyone wants to verify my problem with is, I know it's your property, and I think people have been shy about asking, but if we heard a little bit more about what was going on and when it was going on and what needed to be done, I think you'd have a whole lot easier time with it. I'm happy to do it. And, we have lots of friends in this community that reach out to me by email and ask, and I'll answer anybody. So let's do that. I'm happy to do it.
I mean, like I said, I'll read these into the record when we get a minute, so you don't want me to do it now, I take it.
I mean, just do it in the regular comment.
Okay, I'll do it in the regular comment. I'll shut up.
That's right. Well, I appreciate
Everybody's tired of
everything
hearing
you're
me, but it's highly upsetting to me, and know it's upsetting to the neighbors and folks that live real close to it. They've sustained damage to their home when fire came out, one of the families. And they're long-term residents of this community. So they have some real concerns, and they're liable, so I'll shut up. I'm sorry. I don't need to take up your time, guys.
No, you're fine. I guess I'm next. They appreciate you coming tonight. We've been wanting to talk to you. There's a lot I don't understand, and I want to get it cleared up. We, of course, are the ones taking the heat here. We're the ones that get the questions, are you sure this is moving forward? What's going on? I like the idea of a tour. The last time I went through that, your manager gave us a tour, was after it had burned. So we saw all that, and I'd like to see what you've done. That would be great. And would go a long way so we can communicate what has been done.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. You mentioned plumbing was ongoing, HVAC. Their workers have been working on that, doing work in that area?
They have, yes.
Okay. What about the electrical, the wiring and so forth in all the units?
Yeah, so that when we had to re-engineer around the switchgear, that's related to that. That is now solved, and we're getting ready to order that new switchgear, but again, it's a one-year lead time. You will see that guy wiring in the next few weeks as he starts to move forward with the electrical component of the job.
Okay, so when you say the switchgear, you're talking about the multi-gang meter base?
Yes,
Right, that, what, 60-some meters will go into?
that's correct.
Yeah. So I guess my question is, you may have answered it. You can start the roughing in of each unit now, as far as the wiring, the individual panel boxes and so forth that they'll have.
That's right, and that's imminent.
Okay.
Same electrician that did Beals will be doing that job.
Okay. Yeah. And I'll just say, I retired from Appalachian Power, so I've seen this stuff. If you ever go downtown Lynchburg, Lower Basin, Commerce Street, those old warehouses, they have done a fantastic job there. I saw those remodeled, renovated, but the last thing that went in was the meter base, the multi-gang industrial. So all the wiring, all the panel boxes, lights, fixtures, all that was already in there and good to go once the meter base got there. So really all they had to do was, number one, get that installed, plug the meters in, do the testing, and you're good to go. So I guess my question is, you are in the planning stages to get that done?
Yes, we're not waiting for the switchgear
Yeah.
to start the power. We will be installing wiring within probably a week or two.
Good.
But all I was saying about the switchgear was it required a redesign. We have a contract with these people that do this work, and it required a change to the contract. So there's a lot of legalese, there's DHR issues, there's all sorts of stuff, problems that compound on a historic tax credit job like this, where you're under the purview of the National Park Service. There's a lot that happens that we know as the historic tax credit developers that you just don't see. And so there's a domino effect.
And I will say this, because of my background, I go by there and I can see the rafters or the wood inside the units and all that, and I'm thinking, why is someone not in there wiring that up, doing that? So that's kind of been my little hang up, because that's kind of my background. But you're assuring me that's going to be ongoing very soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in conjunction, you'll be working with that one also.
That's right, yes. We consider it one big project.
Right.
And just so you know, on that one, it's maybe information that you don't care about, but when you look and see the rafters, if you look through Old Yellow, that's all plaster, different process. We're gonna have wall-mounted conduit in a lot of those places.
Okay.
So it's just a different application.
Yeah.
that's why it may appear we're out of sync or sequence on Old Yellow. It's just two different building styles.
I just think it would do my heart good if I could just see people moving around in there. I think that would go a long way.
Me too.
And neighbors also. But yeah, I like what I'm hearing so far. We still have utmost trust and faith in you, and again, we would just like to see a little progress. And the tour is a good idea.
Well, I appreciate that, and believe me, it's not for not trying. We're not sitting on our hands with any of this stuff.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Hey, Dave, I'm gonna hit a little bit on the switch gear a little bit too. You know, we talked back, I guess, July, when you came to me about this idea of, you know, doing the master metering, and, you know, it's, I think, a little disingenuous to say that you weren't aware that the town policy was to not allow that. I mean, you know, it wasn't allowed at the lofts, you know, so you knew well going into this that we were probably going to require, you know, the separate metering. So I'm a little, I would say maybe a little upset that with, you know, between now and July, when we gave you an answer, I mean, we did call the electric committee to, you know, together. We did discuss in length why we thought that we should not make a policy change. We gave you that decision fairly quickly, and, you know, here we are, like I said, months later, and we're still kind of at the same place. You know, so one of the things I would like for you to provide, both the EDA and us, is almost a timeline. You know, okay, where am I going to be here? You know, I'm sure you've got it scheduled out. I would hope that's what most builders and developers do. They've got their plans scheduled out when things are going to happen. You know, I would like to see some progress made before we consider an extension. You know, and I'd like to know from you where you're going to kind of be by the time we get out to March, you know, and have some benchmarks. I just think, you know, my fear is if we just grant you an open-ended extension, what's going to be the next supply chain issue that you're not aware for, or you have a plan, you know? I mean, it's just, I would just like to see something a little more definitive. I mean, you're saying work's coming, but I think, you know, that's kind of where I am. You know, I've spent many, many years financing projects, and I recognize red flags when I see them. And when work stops, you know, that scares me, you know. So I just want to make sure we work together. I'm still supportive of this project. You know, I've seen you do it. I mean, you did it at the lofts, you did it at Bill's. You've done it in other communities. You know, I know how it kind of works. You're going to come in and throw everybody in there and get it done. I just would like to have some assurances that you're committed, you know, and this is kind of what you're thinking from a time standpoint, that where you're going to be. I know things may come up. I understand that. But, you know, I think that would put us in a very more comfortable position to know where we're going to, you know, how this is going to play out. What the game plan is something that we can kind of, you know,
There's
sink our
times
teeth
in
into.
situations like this, I wish my lender was standing right here next to me, because you know,
He's asking the same questions.
idea of sitting here on our hands and doing nothing while I pay interest on the $5 million commitment we made so far on this thing is insane.
Right.
That we would not want to finish.
Right.
It makes no sense. And in terms of our priorities, it's to the bank and the state of Virginia and the IRF grant that we have. The town, I mean, the town's just one group, the neighbors are just one group. This is a really big deal. You know, at the lofts, we didn't propose a single meter. We weren't rejected over it. We just used to, in 2013, 10 years ago, didn't know about the RUBS program, which is the Ratio Utility Billing Program that a lot of developers use in Virginia. We've learned that. We've grown up as developers, and we didn't try to do the single meter thing there. So we didn't know about it. We would not ever have proposed the single meter thing here if we had known. It's a waste of time to do that, to waste everybody's time. But we found out, we went through it, we did learn in July, but like Bruce brought up, he said the smart thing, we had to shop it. That's why it's October and we're now have solved this problem. We looked high and low to everywhere that is in these, the ABB, all these places, GE that supply this kind of switchgear, and shopped it like crazy, trying to get something quicker, trying to solve this problem in other ways. We looked at refurb, all these different ways to get that stuff here quicker.
So has that been ordered? Is that on order now?
It's getting ready to be, yeah, but like I say, that lead time, because honestly, it's all roiling forward from COVID. This is a very unique time, very unique, and I think everybody, it would be helpful if we all could agree to that. This is still, we're still in a weird COVID repercussion day. That's what these supply chain issues are all about, you know. So it's real, and it's unique to now, you know. So I want you to know this is all very genuine, and I really do appreciate and want you to be supportive of what we're doing here. We're not making anything up. It's really not disingenuous. I want you to trust us here. I also want, and I'm happy to give you a schedule. We do have that, of course we do. And I think once we get over the hump with this, I can't think of any other things that are going to magically come up as a supply chain issue.
HVAC's not
right now.
pretty good shape on your HVAC supply.
Yeah, I mean, everything else looks good. As we work on this building, you know, we're a company that does many projects around the state. We just got our switchgear in Bedford, and like we talked about, we wired it up and waited. Then we did sit on our hands, and it showed up, plugged it on the wall, and today the power, we could have got that switchgear 4 months ago, and that would have been nice, but we didn't. We're all wired up waiting for it, and mold started to grow in the building. Huge problem that I don't know that he's aware of. If you do not have air moving in a building, that you have sheetrocked, you are screwed. Majorly screwed. And you've created now an environmental hazard and a health hazard to everyone that ever comes in that building if you let black mold go in that building. So I would be absolutely irresponsible of me to build a building that did not have power and wait for that switchgear too long and grow mold, and then create a health problem. And imagine the PR disaster we would have on our hands. It'd be worse than that fire. It'd be worse than some construction delays. So it's all part of the process. We have to be really thoughtful about it. Mold did start to grow on our Bedford project, thank God we got the power on. But we solved the problem. So it's all very real. You know, you have to keep that air moving and do all these things in a thoughtful, correct way. So I appreciate what you're saying. Happy to share a schedule. Happy to do a walkthrough. Happy to tell you what problems we have, if we do have any more. I don't foresee any. Switchgear is always the big one right now. It's not unique to us.
Well, thank you for coming, Dave. You know, you heard most of us said the same thing, pretty much security and the neighbors and stuff like that. You know, that is one major thing that a lot of people do worry about is security of the building. We would like to see, hopefully, the building will get secure sometime in the future where we can actually, the neighbors and the town and everybody in town would be more, how you said, where it won't be, they have to worry about it, like what happened a couple of years ago or whatever. You know, this is a landmark. This is one of the landmarks of the town. You see it no matter what way you come into town or what way you go. And when I was there today, you put the bell tower back on top of the building. That was a great day to get that tower back on top of that building. You know, I understand that you have some problems with supply and demand and stuff like that, but you know, we just want, I like the tour part because, you know, that gives us and everybody else an idea of what's going on so people can have a better general idea of what you're doing and how things are moving forward or whatever. Other than that, I mean, pretty much everything that everybody else has said, we pretty much, it's the same equation here. I mean, I would like to see some activity up there. I mean, there has not been that much activity up there to what I've seen, unless they're coming through the back door and nobody can see them or something like that. But, you know, we just want to see this project move forward. The town wants to see this project done, and we want to move forward with this. And the neighbors want to be more secure of what's going on in that building, so, thank you.
No need for me to repeat all that. You've heard it all, Dave. We all took a risk when this started, but I think it's a good risk. You got a good track record. I appreciate what you've done. I mean, fire, COVID-19, supply chain issues, economic shutdown. I think we're going to be feeling it for a while still, so keep going. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan. I really appreciate you saying that. You know, if anyone questions our commitment to this project, I just want to remind the public of the day the fire happened. You know, Bart and I talked on site and basically said right then and there, we could just ditch the whole thing and scrap it and bulldoze it. And it would have cost me nothing. But we didn't. And we made a big commitment on that day, on the front lawn, to finish this project. And we are not going to stop till it's done. There are times things get hard or slow or whatever, and there's a lot of people out there. I've seen some of the fake Facebook posts. It's inanity. It's absolute garbage. And it's just shocking to think that anyone actually believes it. But I am open to communicating reality to everybody, so what's going on, and we will finish. We won't stop. It will not stop, and you can't stop it at this point. The bank won't let us. The journalists and tax credit investors will not let me stop this project. So it won't stop. It will get done, and we're all going to be celebrating it very soon. And that's all there is to it. And you're right, it's a really unique time. We've been to hell and back probably 3 times over with all this stuff, but we're still going to do it.
But Dave, thank you for coming, talking to us, listening to us. Thank you for your commitment to this project. I know it hasn't been easy. There are a few hurdles you have to overcome. I think the problem is we're trying to get information to answer questions that people ask us. And they have legitimate concerns. But thank you for coming, and I hope that we can keep communication going, that maybe we can see what you're doing, so that when people ask us, we can tell them what we see and where it's at. So, but thank you for your commitment to this.
Thank you, I appreciate it, I'm happy to do that.
So Dave, one real quick, and then I'll turn it over to the EDA, see if they've got any questions. Do you think, I don't know, if monthly, you could just shoot Bart an email, any issues, kind of where you are, is that 2 or every 60 days? I mean, I don't know. I mean, just something just that you could update Bart, he could disseminate it amongst all of us. Just kind of, yeah, I'm sure y'all, you know,
No, that's
have project meetings and just kind of share that with us.
Sure, very legitimate request, and I'm happy to do that.
Okay. All right. John?
Yeah, well, you probably don't know half of us, or even maybe a couple of us. I know we've met once, but a lot of people in the room don't realize that the town council did heavy lifting on this whole project. The EDA was just a conduit to make it happen. So all the contracts, final contracts were signed by the EDA and with your company. So we really represent the future going forward. If anything has to be changed or modified, we're going to work with town council, but ultimately it has to be, you have to work with us to get the extension and that type of thing. We're excited to do what we can to make sure, we're all volunteers. We're not elected officials. We volunteer our time to make sure we get something done. So, and that's, we're very direct. We don't have any agenda. We're going to work with you, and you can trust everything we say as being truth. So, and I just want to tell you, it was like months after I became chairman is when the fire came. And we just signed all those contracts, maybe how many months before, and I was like, well, I wasn't expecting that this was going to be. I was expecting to have this whole thing thrown back in our lap, and ultimately, if it hadn't been for your enthusiasm and your foresight, it would be a grassy. I'm convinced it would just be grass up on that hill right now, next to Old Yellow, maybe a parking lot or something. So I really, and my, you know, I haven't really been attached to, we haven't been monitoring this project very much because it's been on autopilot and it still is. I do walk my dogs by there every day. And my concern was, you know, it's been a few years and you have been through turmoil. I mean, you really have, COVID and all that stuff. But since then, you know, environments change. We have the 620 apartments have now come online. That's 50 or 60 apartments. In 2025, we're going to have a Hampton Inn that's going to be coming into town. Interest rates have gone higher. Everything's changed. And I guess what I just wanted to ask you, are you still enthusiastic about this project as much as you were when you decided to rebuild after the fire? Or,
More so.
well,
Those apartments coming on, 620 apartments, the best thing that could have happened. They are continuing to show that Bedford is a viable community, that people want to live here. You know, we have deals right down the street. I mean, it's an amazing situation. They also push the rents up, which might stink for a lot of people, but actually resets the market for us. So I think that location is amazing. It's iconic. It's going to be great. So it only bolsters our enthusiasm to see these projects, hear about Hilton's commitment to this area. That tells me someone's done a lot of research, and it's a good idea.
well, we put together a hotel study, and they did consider your cardinal rule as already up and running as part of that evaluation.
Right.
And it was still plenty of room for a commercial for that.
It's why the hotel, why we proposed it. You could see there was a massive lack of supply in this area.
Yep.
And, you know, in this really great location. So all those things that have happened have just vindicated our ideas. I mean, remember, we've been investing in Bedford since '07, you know, or even earlier. So we have had a very good feeling that at times it's hard to quantify or get into a report or a market study about this town, but you could feel that it was here and going somewhere. And today, I feel stronger than I ever have about that feeling. And now you can actually measure it and monetize it and all these things. So we're thrilled about the project. We really are. We're not stopping. We've had these ridiculous delays, really, but they're somewhat out of our control. But we're still very committed to the project. The funding is all in place. Virginia Credit Union is a lender, and there's really no other issues there, but we can't wait to get it over.
Well, I guess the next, going forward, and that's kind of what I'm more interested in, is where we're going forward. And I think you need to submit a formal extension request to us with a date. And you don't have to do that next week. I don't know when you want this extension. Right now, if nothing happens and you don't request anything different, we would probably have that signed and sealed sometime on February 24, a month before, or sometime early March, or sometime in February, I would guess, and give you that extension if things are going as you anticipate they will be. If you want it earlier than that, then you need, but either way, we need to have, I guess, a letter or at least a date.
Yeah.
Some type of date.
I'll get you a schedule,
And a schedule like the mayor was talking about, would be really useful, and so we can kind of plan out what our expectations are. Now, I guess you're going to need the switchgear. You don't know when you're getting that, right, at this point?
That's the thing, right? If that comes in the fall of '24, it could work out fine. We're going to be building, and that's about when we would have the CO there, just loosely speaking, based on where we are right now. That agreement, I think, was a 36-month agreement, and the fire happened in the middle of that somewhere. So all we really want to do, there's a clause in there that talks about that very thing, and the extension would just be to account for the time that we lost it and move forward. I don't think we're going to need all that time, but that's kind of a thought that I'm having, is let's just add to what we lost, and I think we'd all be in great shape. Realistically, we'll probably be looking at a CO in the summer or fall of '24.
Because I think the performance agreement isn't necessarily tied to, well, if I remember, it's not tied to when you open the doors for business. It's actually when you get an occupancy permit.
That's right.
So you may that may only be a month before you open, I don't know, but that's something you may want to consider when you give us a schedule.
Yeah, looks like a place in service. Well, and so, yes, we'll do that. That's the thoughts I'm having about it.
I mean, I would prefer it to be inaccurate, so if you need another month to get the delivery date of when the switchgear is gonna actually, when they think they can get it here, get it as accurate as we can, so we don't go through this again. No, but, it'll be, we should at least be plus or minus a month or so, whatever that date is, of getting this thing sealed up and, but yeah, that's what we're doing. But, I think that's the only two things, if we meet every second Friday of every month, if we have a reason to meet at 1 o'clock. So if you ever want to get on the agenda, call Mary and we can talk in more detail at the EDA. That's Mary's over. So anyway.
Good, well, thank you.
Yeah, I think the questions and issues have been addressed, and appreciate your pledge for information and transparency. I think that'll go a long way. Everybody walks past that building, drives past that building, and we all get questions, EDA as well. What's going on? I don't see anybody over there. And so, the transparency and the information will help fill that vacuum, because when you have that vacuum, then obviously people's minds wander, and then you get these posts and whatnot. So appreciate your pledge for information and for coming in, and look forward to hearing more about it and what's going on.
Thanks for coming and bringing us up to date. And I just agree with what everybody else pretty much said. I go by it every day, 2 or 3 times a day, and I just want to see something being done. But thank you.
Well, thank you for your commitment, and I agree with everyone else. I think a tour would be great, and a timeline, definitely.
That'd be great.
I'll just add something really quick, Ryan, on the EDA. So there's a lot of different perspectives in the room. Clearly, there's a lot of emotions in the room, but I don't doubt your commitment to this community. I'm excited about your commitment to this community. So from my perspective, I have 3 kids under the age of 6, and we moved to Bedford 2 years ago because we believe in this community. So people like you, other developers, other businesses that come to this community, I want to see this community grow, because I have 3 children that I want to live in Bedford someday in the future. And so I do appreciate your commitment to the community. I also understand the concerns that have been voiced. I think they're legitimate concerns, and what I guess I've learned in my life is when there's an absence of information or an absence of communication, there is going to be confusion. And so I'm glad you came tonight to provide that so that we can understand where you're coming from, we can understand maybe where we're coming from, and maybe some of these communication issues, once they're solved, everybody will feel a lot better. So I just wanted to know that from my perspective, and I just appreciate you being here and committing to this community.
Thanks for saying that. We're going to start this formal communication process, but we have a lot of friends in town, friends on the council. You all have seen our projects come up and thrive over the last 10 years. I am 1 email away. I'm 1 phone away. I think you all have my phone number. I mean, really, please call me. This should never happen. There should never be a lack of communication. So I really implore you, it will never bother me or anything. Someone just give me a buzz. I'm happy to talk about these projects. I'm excited about these projects. So please, anytime do that, even outside of the formal 60-day thing we may do. I'm happy to talk about it at any time.
Dave, once again, appreciate your comments. This is important that we figure this out. Like I said, I never doubted your commitment. I just want to see us kind of move this thing forward. And I understand the issues you're facing, I do. I look forward to the day that, you have that ribbon cutting and opening, and I hope that's in the very near future, as fast as you can get it done. So, we'll work together. It's not an adversarial thing. We want to work this out, but you need to hear from all of us, and you're hearing it from we're representing the community, and that's what we're hearing. So we just really wanted to have this conversation, and we'll figure out, what the next steps are, and go from there. So thanks for coming.
That's great. Well, thanks for having me, everybody. Really appreciate the opportunity to speak.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So John, if y'all want to adjourn your portion of the,
Yeah, we're done. We can adjourn our, do you adjourn?
yeah, we're going to adjourn our and then we'll call the regular meeting back into
Yeah,
order.
we're good.
All right, so the joint town council adjourns the joint meeting of the town EDA.
Good deal.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank y'all for coming.
Appreciate it.
Is the police on the beat walking around there, the reason why I asked about that, said that the other person I was in my bathroom.
All right, well, we're going to have a public comment period in our regular meeting if you want to speak during that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we got a process. We're going to call the other meeting to order, and then there's a section in there that you can come up and give us your comments.
The question I had, are there police patrolling around us? Because somebody shot a flashlight into my bathroom the other night while I was using the bathroom. Was it police or was it somebody else?
I don't know. Bart, can you maybe get his information and check with the police chief?
There are regular patrols.
There are regular patrols in that area, yes, sir.
Before it came to judge too.
Okay.
Come up in there and you're gonna be dealt with.
All right. All right, so we're going to go ahead and call the, all right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
See you.
Thank you. All right, so we'll go ahead and call the regular council meeting to order and proceed with our agenda, which is the approval of the minutes from August the 22nd, and then the adjourned meeting, council meeting that happened on August the 22nd. That's the only two, correct? And September 12th, okay. That's right. All right, so are there any questions, corrections, comments on the minutes? No? If not, we'll approve those as submitted. Next item, report of the town manager, Mr. Warner.
Thank you, Mayor Black, members of council. Just a few items to cover tonight. The town's fall cleanup event will take place next week. Curbside collection service will be provided to customers who pay the monthly fee. The Planning Commission is in the process of completing a proposal for the redrafting and revision of the zoning ordinance. I know they've spent quite a bit of time on that, and Councilman Sholin is being the liaison. We appreciate your efforts there. Also wanted to extend a word of congratulations to Ann Cantrell and the rest of the Finance Department staff for receiving the Government Finance Officers Association Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for fiscal year 23-24. And since this will occur before the next time we get together, I want to remind everyone that town offices will be closed on Monday, October 9th in observance of a holiday recognized by the Commonwealth. And that concludes my report.
Anybody got any questions? Warner? No? All right. Let's see, appearances before council. The only person signed up this evening is Tony Claytor. Mr. Claytor?
How y'all this evening?
Good.
I'll try to keep this short and sweet if I can. It was really hard for me to sit there and listen to Dave tell that crap that he's feeding. Old Geller has had studying in it for over a year. He said he just now got plumbers up there to put in underground plumbing. He's saying now that he can get electricians in there to do some wiring and heat and everything. He could have done all that a year ago. So he's committed to the project because of the money. I mean, he's gonna do it. But y'all have got to quit giving him extensions on this thing. I don't care what kind of crap he tells you. It's a bunch of bull. He could go on to do most of this work and everything by time. If he started now, he wouldn't be finished till October of next year when he's saying he's gonna get the switchgear in. I told y'all before, he's not your savior. Just like I'll go back over this again, when the original contract was done, no clauses was put in there where he had to keep the power and everything on. You heard what he said tonight, it was costing $13,000 a month to keep the power on the building, that's why they took it off. There's been something in that contract saying that all the power, security services and everything else must be in operational condition during the whole time, the school may not burn up to start with. I don't know if y'all remember when I come up here and told you that then. But yeah, he's committed to the project because of the money that he's gonna wind up getting in the long run. But all he did tonight was feed y'all a load of crap, and if y'all believe it, something's wrong with it, okay? So I suggest no more extension. You put him under the gun and tell him to get it done, get it over with. He'll do it. But he's got issues in other localities too. And my understanding is the subs and stuff like that, he hadn't paid them, they're suing him. So, don't know where it's going with that. The lofts, he did the lofts, yeah. Soon as he could unload those things, he did. He sold them. He had to keep a certain amount of time. As soon as he could unload them, he sold them. The only thing he's committed to is the almighty dollar. Y'all need to get that in your head. He ain't committed to Bedford for shit. You got to realize that. This is money. He has no other commitment other than the money. Now, I'm proposing to all of y'all not to be given no extension to put him under the gun and either get the project done or get out. Okay? Because everything he told you tonight, like I said, about the plumber lecture and everything else, that could have been being done. He's calling it one project. He could have went on and finished the old Yeller, got it up and running, hooked up and all like that. Didn't have nothing to do with the old school. But, you know, I just have a real problem with y'all kissing somebody's butt just to try to get something done. And I said this a year or more ago. But his people, and when he was doing this deal to start with, he should have knew what he had to do and what he had to have. Now, I understand there is some issues with getting stuff, because I had problems getting windows too. It took 10 months to get his windows because they were so big, so many. But most of that stuff's gone by the wayside. I mean, you know, you can't keep using the COVID as a scapegoat, and that's exactly what it's doing, okay? But I just want y'all to know that. And please think about it before you go ahead and consider giving him another extension, because if you give him an extension, the performance thing gets extended at the same time, right? And we don't need to do that. Hold him to it, make him get it done. If he's gonna do it, get it over with, okay? I told y'all before, he's not your savior. He's not saving nothing. He's just dragging it out. He's gonna drag it out as long as he can until y'all finally put your foot down. So, y'all do what you want to, you always do anyway, but I wanted you to know how I felt about it, okay? Y'all have a good evening.
Mr. Klainer, if you give me the address, please, for the record.
276 Big Island Highway. 4276 Big Island Highway.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next item, council comments. I'm going to start tonight. Going to talk a few things that have been weighing on me a little bit. And I just need to speak to you all as a citizen, speak to our employees in a very public way. There's been a lot of chatter in this community, a lot of comments, a lot of ideas, and some I agree with, some I don't. So I'm gonna try to correct some misinformation that's floating around, and you know, it's gonna be some truth telling, and so just bear with me. This last week, I had the honor and the pleasure to attend roll call with our police department twice last week, and with the men and women of the Bedford Police Department. Like I said, there's been a lot of chatter on social media, in the streets, along with comments from a lot of new candidates running for office. And I wanted to meet with the police department and their employees and address their concerns, answer their questions, which they had a lot for me because they're hearing the same things. I assured them that these ideas being proposed by some of these candidates were not the views of the majority of this council. They weren't my views, and I didn't agree with them. There's a social media site on Facebook called the Bedford Candidate Open Forum, and if you're a town resident, you might want to check it out. Recently, a county resident suggested we may want to, look at consolidating the police department with the sheriff's department. That's a real bad idea. A candidate supported by this group running together suggested our police department's overstaffed. Other candidates have suggested to police officers and our chief of police the massive budget cuts are coming if they're elected. Like I said, folks, I think you don't really understand what our police department does. The first and most important goal of this body of a local government is to provide for the safety and security of our community. In our police department, who's led by a true professional, Chief Ronnie Lewis, is doing that in a very challenging environment with limited staff and resources. I just never imagined that the defund the police movement would be discussed here in our community. These comments from those seeking to serve this community reflect a lack of understanding of the issues our police officers face on a daily basis, such as mental health crises, drugs and drug trafficking and drug overdoses, domestic violence, and a multitude of other matters. It's a lot more than theft at Walmart, as someone said. Not only are officers responding in town, but many times they're assisting the sheriff's department in the county due to some of their own understaffing issues. Those who wish to defund the police are being reckless, irresponsible, and I believe do not reflect the values of this community. And they should explain this agenda to all of us. It is one that I will not support, whether I sit up here or I'm out there in those seats. We also discussed in depth the criticism of building a new police station. I reiterated my stance that they need a new facility, but the economic realities and the current financial situation make it difficult to move ahead right now. What is disappointing is some of the candidates for offices and their supporters are still spreading misinformation about the cost to build this building and how much we have spent on design. Once again, I will state, for those who want to criticize this project, the estimated cost to build this building presented to us by our architect and engineer was $10.4 million, not the $12.0 million you all keep saying. In addition, some of the candidates keep saying we have spent $1 million to just design the facility. Once again, that's false. To date, we have spent $543,134.93, of which $36,994.93 was to gauge our financial analysts, to assess our financial condition, and our ability to pay for the project. The money spent was to do the following: to conduct a space needs assessment of our current facility, to create a design concept, and to develop plans up to a 50% design of the new facility. All this, which is the property of the town and can be used to move forward at some future date. So once again, we have not spent $1 million to date. Some of the comments from our officers during these meetings reflected the reality of the inadequate facility they are having to work in. I heard it's embarrassing when our fellow law enforcement agencies come to the department and see the overcrowded conditions we're working in. The hiring manager stressed to me that the condition of the work environment is starting to affect our ability to hire new officers and retain current ones. I let them know that I still support this project, and I'm hopeful we can figure out how to move forward with it as soon as it is feasible. I want to publicly, once again, express my gratitude and respect to the men and women of the Bedford Police Department. Our community should be appreciative of the work you all do on a daily basis to keep this community safe. Your job is stressful enough, and for you to have to be affected by some of these ideas being represented or expressed by people wanting to serve this community is unacceptable in my opinion, and I vow to stand up and support you anytime I can. Chief Lewis, I want to thank you for your leadership of this department. You have a plan to strengthen our law enforcement agency through vigorous training, the use of technology to help identify and improve our problem areas within our community, and your commitment to improve communications with our citizens, and I look forward to you coming. I've invited the Chief of Police to come next month to a meeting to make a presentation to this council, to the community, expressing and helping to educate the challenges they face on a daily basis, and what his plans are to move his department forward. So the next item that there's also getting a lot of talk in the community is the animal control issue. I just wanted to address that. You know, like I said, there's been social media posts, letters to the editor. I just wanted to express where we are, our thinking, and that we're working to try to figure this out. But for your information, currently there is no dedicated animal control officer serving the citizens of the town of Bedford. One of the benefits of reverting from a city to a town was supposed to be the elimination of duplicate services. So we ask ourselves, does it make sense for the town to provide the service when the county has an animal control staff under the sheriff's department? The reality of the situation is that our town police officers are dealing with this issue as the best they can. But they're inadequately trained or equipped for this task in light of all the other issues they have to deal with. Bedford County Animal Control does assist in the town, and we're appreciative of that when they're available and the situation is serious enough. The Virginia State Code states that the governing body of each county shall, or each town may, employ an officer to be known as that animal control officer. There's some debate between the town and the county, you know, about who should provide these services. And the county, you know, debate over whether the county has to provide these services without some type of agreement between the two governing bodies. We kind of think that the town citizens, you know, should be afforded the same level of services that others in the county receive in regard to animal control. For the last 2 years, there's been a lot of communication between, you know, Bart and Mr. Hiss, the county administrator, as we've tried to reach some type of resolution on this issue. But so far, there's been a little progress. You know, town council has discussed this amongst ourselves, with our staff, with our attorney multiple times, but it just doesn't seem to be an issue that we can have much communication with the board of supervisors on. I'm telling you right now, we're committed to working with you all, Tammy. I appreciate you being here tonight, but we are committed to trying to work with you all on this issue. But we got to sit down and talk, you know. We really do want to seek a resolution to this problem, but it's going to take us working together on it. If not, you know, if we can't reach a resolution, then that's going to leave us with some decisions in the future. You know,
Yep.
I mean, our citizens definitely deserve this service. We've got to figure out who's going to provide it and how best to efficiently provide that service. But I just wanted to give everybody an update because there seems to be a lot of talk about it and a lot of questions being asked of us, of the candidates that are running for office. So I thought it was important to at least outline where we are now. So with that, I would appreciate your giving me the time to make some of these comments this evening, and we'll go around the room.
Okay. First, I want to welcome everybody to the meeting. Thank you for showing up. I'd also like to recognize a couple of people, our current supervisors, Tammy Parker and Pedro Tuck. Thank you for coming out. I also want to say a few other things. One, my top 3 issues are obviously keeping taxes low. 2, economic development, which, hey, we've had some great things that we've done over the last couple of years. And I'm also committed to public safety, a tradition that they used to do up in, I know they probably still do up in Michigan, is a policeman's ball. I'd like to see the town do a policeman's ball. I think that would be a great way to maybe raise some funds and boost morale at the same time. And it could also give more recognition right there. And it would also attract dignitaries. And people would pay good money to attend one of those. The other thing is I'm glad some things finally got out in the open about the middle school project. That's probably one of the top questions I get asked no matter where I go is what's going on with the middle school project? Why isn't it done yet? Now with the 620 project, I could drive by, see work being done here, banging of hammers and whatnot. Look, I'm gonna be as nice as I can be, but at the same time, I believe there may come a point in time where we may have to just hold his feet to the fire. Now, I don't speak for the rest of the council on that, but I just want to see that project get done in a timely manner. I'm also worried about the security, it getting vandalized even further. I'm also worried about mold. I know what it's like to have black mold. That can definitely take a toll on your health. And like I say, if we all work together, we can get some great things accomplished. And thank you for coming out.
Okay. Just a couple of things here. First of all, we've started a 45-day period for early voting, and I hope folks will take advantage of that and go out and vote. We need as many folks as possible to vote. Vote for who you need to, but please get out and vote. It's in everybody's best interest. Secondly, I've gotten 2 letters, and one of them is from Miss Ann Suhanov, and Ann had wrote me and said, "My name is Ann Hayes Suhanov. I am the owner of 512 Peak Street, very closely adjacent to the former Bedford Middle School. My husband and I strongly oppose any further delay in the completion of the Bedford Middle School Old Yeller project. This virtually unattended site with the middle school building until very recently wide open to trespass risks becoming an opportunist target of petty vandalism, which very may well morph into something more serious. My husband and I recall the petty vandalism over several months escalated to an adult vandalism, then to arson. Our house sustained $7,900 in damages as a result of that arson. We will not tolerate a repeat performance. For your information, on the morning of July the 26th, I heard vandalism occurring at the former middle school. I immediately alerted the Bedford police. The glass in the alley door was smashed. The loading dock door was wedged open, according to an investigating officer. Unauthorized people were inside the building. A few days later, I noticed a wide open basement window in the alley. The open window would allow neighbors' property also sustained petty vandalism. Not once, but twice. Police responded. Our immediate neighborhood is now the target of criminal behavior. It truly seems that the school site has become a nuisance. Yes, of course, I understand the effects of pandemic on manpower and supply chairs. And yes, I opposed this project from the beginning, but now the project is well underway. Our neighbors, and the town need to be completed in a timely manner according to the performance agreement. Now, she also had a note come from her attorney, which is Mark Feldman, Glenn Feldman, Darby, Goodlatte in Roanoke. And Mr. Feldman suggested if we give an extension of this project, that a provision be put into that. Any extension must be conditioned on the developer being required to provide private security when no workmen are on site. So that's Ms. Silanoff and her husband's comments on this, and I think they live closest to this project and are more than aware of the problems that are going on. So the other one is from Ms. Sarah Kennedy, who wrote a similar note, and I won't read it in its entirety, but she's basically indicating that she feels that the vandalism in the neighborhood has gotten out of hand, particularly because of the problems with the middle school, and she'd like to see these things stop, and they have in the neighborhood, they put up cameras and lights and other things to try to prevent this, but it has been a most concern to a lot of people, and there's several people in the neighborhood who are very upset about that. So that's one of the reasons that I brought that up. I'll be quiet now.
You're doing good. You're on a roll. Well, the first thing I want to do is congratulate Ann on her achievement, her recognition and award. And you know what I'm going to say. Same thing I said to Mary earlier this year. When other opportunities come knocking, you love it here and don't want to go anywhere. She's shaking her head. Good. Thank you. I do have a few things to say. I won't be long-winded here. It's kind of the ongoing election that we're seeing roll out here. I do have to say, I have never been involved in an election that is this negative and toxic. I'm almost to the point to where, why did I even run? I mean, this is my 5th council election. In the past, we all had the same goals to move the city/town forward and made good decisions. I just would like to see some of the candidates running, just tell what your platform is. Why are you running? I mean, we're hearing different things. It's on the street. Unincorporate the town. Reverse the annexation. You know, just say it. I mean, it's all over the street. It's being said to us. It's being said to people we talk to. You know, I have nothing to hide. I've always been here, my time on council and as a citizen, lifelong citizen, to move this town forward. And I will say this, and I get it, I know what stemmed it, but I have never seen a group of grown adult individuals who didn't get their way act so uncaring towards the rest of the town. It's unbelievable. I've never seen it in my years living here. And I know annexation, I get it. Happened 10 years ago. Now, I do want to mention another thing. These signs that are cropping up everywhere saying, replace all town council. Okay, that's fine. And that may happen. As I said in May, if I'm not here, I have many other things I can be doing. Many things. but I will still support this town. Now, and the next thing I'm going to say is not to be critical, but helpful. There is a person that is running on council that has one of those in his business. Now, my dad had his own electrical business, and the one thing he was always careful to stay away from was politics, knowing it could hurt his customer base. He had his own personal leanings. You would never know it. He never allowed signs, anything, on his business. So I see this. Replace all council. Okay, I don't feel welcome, so they do not need my business. That's the message I get. And it's fine. But at the same time, think about it. Think about it. What do you think when you do things like this? I mean, replace all town council. Okay. And my mind always wanders in these type situations, and I apologize. Okay. Let's just say that happened. Let's just say that happened. Okay. There is no company or business in this country that would ever allow its senior trained employees to walk out the door at one time. Never. They are needed to train and coach the new ones that come on board. So you're going to replace all council, and we all may be gone, and that's fine. Who's going to orient them? Who's going to get them adjusted to what goes on here, to the procedures? Well, I'm sure there are some people running that will be elected that know that. But it takes years and time to learn who to go to, what department to go to for answers. We don't have all the answers. I don't have all the answers. We all have our individual skill set that we work together to make decisions for the town. That's it. So, but let me make it very clear. I hold no ill will towards anyone. What I'm saying here, I'm just saying, because it's out there. I don't hold grudges. Life is too short for that mess. So let me throw one last thing out here to think about. And I really want you to think about it. Everyone that is involved in this election, I want to encourage to take a deep breath, cool down, think about it, and I'm showing my age here, but just do as John Lennon suggested. Let's just come together and be respectful and courteous of each other and work together, because that is what Bedford is about. Thank you.
Okay, so this has been an interesting election. And you know, I've heard about the possibly defunding the police, cutting back on the budgets, replacing keeping the good ones and replacing the bad ones. The whole point is morale. If you don't have morale, it's the key to a happy employee. If you do not have morale in your department, as some of these candidates that go ahead and spread this negative information and negative stuff to our employees, you lose that morale. When you lose that morale, you lose that key to the employees where they can actually function and work properly. So, you know, our employees is our backbone of our town. Some of you might not believe that, but they are. They are the backbone of our town. If it weren't for our employees, we couldn't do what we do up here. There's a group of his calls themselves an coalition or a group, you know, there's been several comments made this week or in the last couple of weeks. There was a candidate that made a comment to, it would be budget cuts on 2 police officers. There was a candidate that made a comment that we're over budget and overstaffed. And there was another candidate that made a comment, there will be cuts budget next year. We'll keep the good ones and get rid of the bad ones. You know, it sounds like you want to defund the police to me, is really what some of you candidates sound like you want to do. And there's been comments, well, when we take over, bring it. Because the whole point is, we all up here, we work for this town, we try to make this town move forward, and with negativity, when you're trying to run an election, it's not, and it really boils down to several things about the reversion. How about if we didn't revert? How many people really would run for council? As long as I sit here, I will never allow anybody to cut any of our departments, police, fire, electric, whatever. The whole point is we have to support our departments so they can support our citizens in our town. And if we don't support our departments, they can't support our citizens and give them the services that they need. People get on Facebook and claim they didn't say these things. Some of them did. They can't inform on Facebook. It gives you some information. Some of the information is good. Some of the information is misleading. So, you know, if you want to know the truth and you want to know what's goes on in town, call one of us, call the town manager, whatever. If you need to know the correct information instead of putting the negative and false information out there. I want to thank the Bedford PD for the awesome job that they do. They are understaffed and under budget. They are behind these lines trying to protect our town. And you know, there's a lot of stuff that people don't realize what goes in our town, goes on. There's a lot of drugs going through our town and stuff like that that needs to be considered. And you know, with the police department and the fire department that works together, they protect our town. Most of them, if you call them, they're within less than 5 minutes there. All a couple of seconds. All I said this year while we was running for the election, be courtesy to you other people that you run against. Don't sit there and talk a bunch of crap about people. I'll run your mouth that you don't know what you're talking about. Oh, you come up to me and shake my hand, I'll shake your hand. Because you know what? I'm that kind of person. Because I'm here for the town and I'm here for the people. Thank you.
Well, I'm not running, so I don't have a whole lot to say. I'm glad these guys are, and I'm not on Facebook, so I really don't know, and whatever. I'm glad they're running. Yeah, defund the police, I think would be really foolish, but that won't be something I'll have any say-so over. So, but I live here, and I've been a big supporter of the town police department. We need them, you know. It's one of the reasons I'm here. You know, I love this place. It's safe. So I hope nothing foolish is done. But that's all I have.
Mr. Carson.
Where to begin. I wish I had no hand. Yeah, but I did. First of all, congratulations, Ms. Cantrell, on the job that you and your team do. You deserve it. You know, like you said, it's been a lot of chatter. A lot of misinformation out there. A lot of people that just seem to be filled with so much hate and resentment. When I was a kid, my grandmother used to tell us all the time, you will learn more by keeping your mouth shut and your ears open than you will trying to talk and listen at the same time. And she was right. So I've been doing a lot of listening to this channel. I don't believe in a lot of hearsay. I had to find out for myself. So I hear it, I check it out, I talk to different people, I dismiss it. I don't say anything. I don't feed into it. I just keep listening. Yeah, I heard when the chief was first hired, you know, he's not gonna last. Bedford don't want a black chief. I heard that. I listened, and I kept my mouth shut. Defund the police. The police needs to be defunded. The sheriff needs to run the whole thing. Big mistake. But I kept my mouth shut, and I listened. Because sometimes when people get to talking, they'll tell a lot more than they mean to, so you just keep listening, and I have. But there's one thing that I heard that I'm going to address tonight. To all of these people, whoever they feel like, whoever they think, I'm going to tell you, it's not about the police. It's not about those officers. It's not about none of that. You know what it's all about? Bedford has a black chief. He was Chief Lewis until the powers that be that he wouldn't bend down to him. He wouldn't bow down because he had a job to do. He was Chief Lewis. Now, he's the black chief. The police department would be better without the black chief. Everything, all this would go away. But that's not happening. We've been through this before. We've overcome this before. You see, all that just brought back flashbacks of what Bedford used to be to what it is now. People getting along. I remember standing in a line down at the store down at Johnson's basement. We were so happy we were going to get a hot dog. And I remember everybody else getting served until there was nobody else left to serve. And yeah, then we could get a hot dog. I remember looking at a bowl of a pot of chili and asking for chili, and no, we don't have no chili, so we got mustard. But we got a hot dog. I remember the black and white bathrooms. But people still got along. I remember asking, we were kids, they didn't feed into that. I remember asking my grandmother, why did they not want to serve us? You know what she told me? Because you are black. I was a kid, it didn't make sense to me. But I grew up and I started understanding. I started understanding. And I understand what she was saying. Keep your ears open and your mouth shut. And we did, but everybody got along. So this weekend, when I finally heard the real deal from these people who want to come in and take over, you might end up with the council. So I'm talking to the good people of Bedford, the people of Bedford that have grown with Bedford. I'm talking to you. If these are the people you want to run your town, so be it. You have my blessings. But I would not stand by, and I don't think the good people of Bedford would stand by for you folks to turn this into a black thing. You can count on it. It's not going to happen. We work hard. Chief Lewis put his life on the line for country, community, work hard. He came here with all the credentials that he needed. He didn't have to stop at Bedford. He could have been the chief anyway. But he was here. He came here. He came here. And he has what he needs to do. Even as we speak, he's training to bring stuff back to Bedford. But no matter how hard you work, no matter what training you got, no matter how things are, how good a person you try to be, you'll never qualify if you got black skin. And I'm tired of it. I am. So the only thing I can tell you folks that feeling that way, stay away from me. Still, I got no problem with you. You're welcome to feel what you want. But Bedford do not need this. We are moving in the right direction. And they do not need this negativity. So y'all think about it. But if you want to turn it into that, trust me when I tell you, you're messing with fire. Thank you.
All right, we'll go into the report of council committees. I guess Stacy, we have a public safety committee meeting tonight.
Public safety meeting, Public Safety Committee met this evening. We talked about the replacement of Ladder 1 in 2027, and we talk about staffing issues at the Bedford Fire Department.
All right, next item, we got the public hearing for there's no revisions to the agenda, correct? The public hearing for the conditional use permit for the mini storage units at tax map number 129A15T in the B2 zoning district.
Notice is hereby given of a public hearing to be held by the Bedford Town Council at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, September 26th at the Town Municipal Building Council Hall for the purpose of hearing a conditional use permit request for local storage located at 1127 East Lynchburg Salem Turnpike, Zone B2 General Business, to expand the mini storage facility by adding a proposed storage building. The applicant is Washington Street, Bedford LLC, Hoboken, New Jersey. Information is on file in the Town Office of Planning and Community Development at 215 East Main Street. Anyone who is in favor of or opposed to this request shall now have an opportunity to express his or her views at this hearing.
All right, I'll open the public hearing on the conditional use permit for local storage. Does anybody wish to speak? Is there anybody here from? Okay, all right.
Good evening. My name is Amy Sipe. I'm the majority partner and principal engineer of AccuPoint Survey and Design, 6200 Fort Avenue in Lynchburg. We are representing the owner in this special use permit. As you can see in your packets, this is the existing storage unit facility that most people are familiar with, just off 460. There is some additional room in the rear of the property that is available for expansion. This group acquired the property a couple of years ago and are looking to just establish more rental units. For the most part, they are already full. The building that they are proposing is a 200 by 60 building. It is climate controlled. There has been historically a shortage of climate controlled facilities throughout the region for self-storage, and as everyone knows, self-storage has become a kind of a hotbed of late, but these will be fully climate controlled, so interior corridors and things of that nature. And we've also been working with the developer to expand or work on his floor layout to meet all fire codes and building code requirements with the building inspectors. We did go through planning commission and we made some modifications to add more buffer and replace the current slats. Some of it was dilapidated from the previous owner, so that will be cleaned up as part of the recommendation from planning commission. They do have some other things inside that they're going to be removing, such as old cars and things of that nature. And there are containers that are held on site, and those will be relocated to the rear of one of the buildings. All applicable stormwater landscaping requirements have been met, and it's pretty straightforward because it's in keeping with what the project already is. So I'm happy to answer any questions technical-wise if you guys have any questions.
Well, if anybody's got any questions when we get to the action item,
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Anybody else wish to speak on this matter? No? All right, we'll close the public hearing. Next item, appointment of a member to the Redevelopment and Housing Authority.
Ms. Gail Davis has expressed an interest in reappointment to the Redevelopment and Housing Authority. The vacancy has been advertised in a local newspaper, and no other citizens have volunteered to serve. Tonight, council is requested to reappoint Ms. Gail Davis to serve on the Redevelopment and Housing Authority, said term to expire October 13, 2027.
All right, we have a motion to appoint Ms. Gail Davis to the Housing
So moved.
Development.
Second.
All right, any questions? No, suggestion? All right, roll call.
Mr. Carson?
Aye.
Mr. Haley?
Aye.
Mr. Hartwick?
Aye.
Mr. Johansson?
Aye.
Mr. Shelley?
Aye.
Stanley?
Aye.
Mayor Black?
Aye.
Motion carries with 7 ayes.
Next item, appointment of a member to the Economic Development Authority.
Mr. Kevin Turner has expressed an interest in reappointment to the Economic Development Authority. That vacancy has also been advertised in the local newspaper, and no other citizens have volunteered to serve. Council is requested to reappoint Mr. Kevin Turner to serve on the Economic Development Authority, said term to expire November 30, 2027.
All right, we have a motion to appoint Mr. Kevin Turner.
So moved.
Got a motion from Mr. Hartwick.
I'll do a second.
All right, any questions? Roll call.
Mr. Haley?
Aye.
Mr. Hartwick?
Aye.
Mr. Johansson?
Aye.
Mr. Shelby?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mr. Carson? Mayor Black?
Aye.
Motion carries with 7 ayes.
So do we have any other than the one for the Water Authority we got to do before the end of the year? Are there any other vacancies on any of our authorities there are?
We still have a vacancy on that?
Okay, so we have one authority, okay. And when does that appointment run out? Does that get out? Okay, so we got a vacancy. Just let us know, maybe, or whatever.
It's been
Yeah.
advertised.
Yes, we are actively seeking a number
Okay, all right,
to continue to work.
okay, all right. All right, next item is the Centerfest rescheduling.
The Central Virginia Business Coalition requested and received approval to close the streets for the 2023 Centerfest event several months ago, and prior to Council's recent adoption of the special events policy. The event was scheduled to occur on Saturday, September 23rd. Due to concerns about the weather and its impact upon public safety, the event was canceled. Central Virginia Business Coalition would like to reschedule the event for Saturday, October 28th, and tonight Council is requested to consider approving the rescheduling of Centerfest for October 28, 2023.
Heather, did you want to make any comments?
Yeah, just really quickly, thank you guys for hearing me out tonight. You know, Centerfest, like Bart said, was scheduled for last weekend. Normally it's rain or shine, tropical storm kind of, throws a wrench in that when you're looking at 20-mile-an-hour winds, and we wanted to make sure that the safety of not only the community but our vendors was looked at. So being that this is such a big event for the town of Bedford, we did want to look at rescheduling. Currently, the date that works best for pretty much all of our vendors, of the 120 we have, only 12 cannot come back on the 28th, which is a feat in itself, getting that many people that can all convene again on the same day in such short notice. We do realize that is also the same day as the Sedalia Center chili cook-off, which we definitely took into consideration. I spoke with Linda Scott. Quite honestly, I think that actually could be a benefit to both of us to have such two different events happening in Bedford and bringing more people to our area. I also think there's two different demographics you're reaching. Ours is more of a vendor craft event, where theirs is more of a niche chili cook-off event, but can definitely see people attending both of those. Our organization works with just more than events, and I've already spoke with Linda about us doing as much as we possibly can to market the chili cook-off as well as Centerfest to continue bringing people in. We've even offered to sell tickets at Centerfest if people want to journey up, and get some chili as well. So, yeah, that's kind of all I wanted to put in there, and just ask for you guys to consider the rescheduling. I know that y'all have a new special events policy in place. Just hoping that because we had put in for this prior to that being done, that we would be granted that extension. So, thank you.
Quick question.
Yes.
Will the Maine lobster guy be back?
Oh my goodness, so he will not, unfortunately.
I didn't think
He's
he would.
one of my 12. He was able to set up at the Bedford Welcome Center that day. They actually sold out quite a bit. He is already on the schedule for next year's Centerfest, so don't fear he won't be back, but it just won't be on the 28th.
Yeah, we got lunch there Saturday. Oh,
I got lunch and dinner, so,
Pretty
yeah.
good.
you're very good,
Yes.
very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Got a motion to approve the rescheduling of the Centerfest to October the 28th.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion second? Any discussion?
Okay, at first I was a little concerned about being the 28th because the Sedalia chili cookout However, I do like the fact that you are gonna be promoting the chili cook-off of Sedalia, so that I do like. And I think that's gonna put some people's mind at ease, because before getting that question answered, I actually had a few people call me saying, Bruce, please try and move it to a different date. But the fact that you are gonna be promoting the chili cook-off, I can support this.
In honesty, if you looked at any date from now through mid-November, there's a festival going on somewhere in our area. Our only other date is November 4th, and quite honestly, there are 4 other local craft fairs going on. So where the craft part of our event would really have affected those, where I think the chili cook-off is a different, like I said, a really different, you know.
Well, I mean, the Smith Mountain Lake Wine Festival was last weekend,
Right.
so I mean, there's, you know, we can support
Yeah.
multiple events and on the same day. It's a, you know, so yeah, I like the idea of cross marketing each other and but anyway, all right. Any other comments, questions? Roll call.
Mr. Hartwick?
Aye.
Mr. Johansson?
Aye.
Mr. Shelby?
Aye.
Mr. Stanton?
Aye.
Mr. Carson?
Aye.
Mr. Hale?
Aye.
Mayor Black?
Aye.
Motion carries with 7 ayes.
All right. Next item is the resolution on the conditional use permit for mini storage units. Mr. Warner?
On September 7, 2023, the Planning Commission held a public hearing to decide whether property located at 1127 East Lynchburg Salem Turnpike can be recommended for approval of a conditional use permit for one additional 60-foot by 200-foot mini storage unit building. The agent for the applicant was the only person to speak at the public hearing. The mini storage units are in existing use at local storage, formerly known as Bedford Packet Inn. The proposed site plan for this application showed a row of new evergreen trees along Phillips Park Drive where the new building is proposed. This would meet zoning ordinance section 705.03 subsection C for screening adjacent to an R3 zoning district. A motion was made to recommend approval of the request. During discussion, commissioners expressed concerns related to the appearance of the existing chain link fence with deteriorated privacy slats and overgrown vegetation as viewed from Phillips Park Drive. Noting one condition by staff for the required landscape buffer, members added a second condition and amended the motion with the recommendation for approval. 1, the vegetative buffer shown along Phillips Park Drive on the plan dated July 21, 2023 shall remain as long as the commercial use abuts the residential district. And 2, the developer shall remove the existing weedy vegetation along the fence line at Phillips Park Drive beyond the proposed buffer and replace existing privacy slats in the chain link fence. The motion to recommend an approval with 2 conditions passed by a vote of 5-0. Tonight, Town Council is requested to consider a resolution to approve a conditional use permit for mini storage units located at 1127 East Lynchburg Salem Turnpike, tax parcel 129-A-15T. Council may amend or remove recommended conditions or impose additional conditions.
All right, we have a motion. So moved. Mr. Jannison, second. Mr. Harwell, any questions? I got, go ahead, no, you go ahead, Stacy.
Is this when you go into the park and go up the side of the hill, is this going up the side of that hill right there?
It's all the way in the back.
All the way in the back, past the containers?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, it'll be right where those containers will go.
Okay. Thank you.
Approximately how many units are you talking? You have got a rough idea?
They're still working on the
Still.
interior corridor to work out the sizes, because it depends on how many acres they have to have. So.
Okay, all right. And then on the privacy fence, does that privacy fence, where you're gonna replace the slats, does it go all the way around the property, or is it just in, I'm sorry, I wasn't able
I
to.
don't remember which, I think if they're dilapidated or deteriorated, they have to be replaced, is my understanding of what the condition is.
But that privacy fence encircles the property right now?
I think for most, for a large portion of it.
Large portion. Okay. So it wasn't just along the Phillips Park Drive, it was wherever that privacy fence is now, that's where you're gonna replace the slats. Is that right there from, okay, all right. All right, that was the only thing I had. Any other?
We felt that the conditions added, and they were more than willing to accept them. it's already an existing storage facility.
Right.
It's not visible from 460, I don't believe so. And then the vegetative buffer, I think, helps, so I think it's gonna be an improvement overall.
So looking at this, I did want to, that reminded me, on that one picture where, on page 4, where the arrow is pointing. So that looks like that elevation may be a little higher than the rooftops of the existing buildings.
Yeah, it's good, it goes uphill.
Right.
Yeah.
Would that be visible from 460, you think?
No, I don't
It's
think.
it's still far enough down,
Oh, yeah, no, it's,
far enough back and far enough,
Yeah.
okay, all right. Not that I mean, 460 is a commercial quarter anyway, but it was kind of alluded to that it wouldn't be, and I just want to make sure, okay, all right, that's all I got.
Looks okay to me.
Roll call?
Mr. Johansson?
Aye.
Mr. Shelby?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mr. Carson?
Aye.
Mr. Haley?
Aye.
Mr. Hartwick? Mayor Black?
Aye.
Motion carries with 7 ayes.
All right, next item, the South Street parcels, request to convey the 2 parcels to the Housing Authority.
The Town of Bedford Redevelopment and Housing Authority is aware of 2 vacant parcels owned by the town located on South Street, at Ridge Street, and Odie Street. These parcels are tax map number 214-A-133T and tax map number 214-A-132T. They are both zoned R1A for residential uses. At their regular meeting on August 10, 2023, the authority discussed requesting that the town council convey these 2 parcels to the authority for their use in lieu of a budget allocation in fiscal year 2024. The attached letter of request explains the intent of the request. As part of their deliberations, they discussed requesting that council also cover all costs of the transaction and to provide a title search to confirm clear title. Tonight, town council is requested to schedule a public hearing for a future council meeting to discuss the properties in the request. This would meet the public hearing requirement of Virginia Code, Section 15.2-1800. So basically, tonight, you're just being asked to schedule a public hearing, you're not taking action.
So one other question along with the scheduling the public hearing. Do we have we declared these lots surplus, or do we need to do that as well, Mike? I want to make sure we did, this kind of goes back to the other land stuff we were talking about one time, and I just want to make sure we're following all the proper steps.
Yes, there is usually, there's usually a need for you to declare land surplus and then list it. That doesn't apply when you are when you are selling it to another governmental entity. The entire point of that process is to make sure that you're not selling something to your brother-in-law in the dark of night.
Right.
When you're transferring the property to the Redevelopment and Housing Authority, which itself needs to have its own sale process that it needs to go through, that those concerns about you doing it in the dark of night are not nearly as great. And we also will need to have a public hearing on that, but we don't have to go through the full public bidding process that we normally would.
Okay, so we can incorporate that all into that one public hearing, declaring it surplus and transferring it all at the same time?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, all right, I just wanted to make sure we were covering that. Any other questions? So do we have a motion? The motion now is just to move to go ahead and schedule the public hearing process. Okay.
So moved.
Motion and second. Any other questions? All right, roll call.
Mr. Shelby?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mr. Carson?
Aye.
Mr. Haley?
Aye.
Mr. Hartwick?
Aye.
Mr. Johansson?
Aye.
Mayor Black?
Aye.
Motion carries with 7 ayes.
All right, next item is the electric department budget amendment for projects.
The electric department is requesting a 2024 budget amendment to order transformers and to complete a feasibility study to repower the old plant at the Snowden Hydro project. The transformer supply chain is extremely backed up with delivery times exceeding 1 year. Inventory is depleted and there is a backlog of customers waiting to be connected or upgraded. Included in the 2024 budget was $100,000 for a transformer order. However, in light of the declining inventory, the electric department is requesting an additional $175,000 to rebuild the inventory and to allow the department to continue to add new customers. In making this request, it is fully anticipated that only a portion of the order is likely to be received this fiscal year, and a significant portion of the order will be received in the next fiscal year. Also in the 2024 budget, $100,000 was included to conduct a feasibility study to repower the old plant at the Snowden Hydro project. The bid for this project came in approximately $40,000 higher than anticipated. As a result, the electric department is requesting an additional $40,000 budget amendment to complete this study. Total requested budget amendments are $215,000. Tonight, Town Council is requested to approve budget amendments which will appropriate budget to ledger accounts as follows. An increase in the revenue item identified as storm recovery charge of $215,000, and the line item identified as transfer in electric of $40,000, and an expenditure in the expenditure line item identified as transformers new of $175,000, transfer to electric capital project $40,000, and hydro infrastructure improvement $40,000.
All right, we have a motion to make the transfers.
So moved.
We have a second.
So, second.
Any discussion,
I
questions?
got a question. So you're talking about feasible study to repower the old power plant. You mean where the old turbines are over there, where the three?
Yeah, we've got, for lack of a better term, a couple of blanks right now, and we're looking at the possibility of looking at what it would take to repower those and to generate more electricity on our own, which would release us from the obligation to purchase it elsewhere.
Okay, because I've been out there to the plant before. I know where the new turbines, I thought this was about the old turbines. I've seen the spots where the old turbines are.
Art, wouldn't that allow us to run with less water? Is that what the-
Ideally, it would be the most current technology, which is a more vertically oriented turbine as opposed to the horizontally oriented ones we have now, which do work at a much more efficient rate. So ideally, yes, if again, this is just
That's what
identifying the cost and feasibility, but if the recommendations led us in that direction, we could ideally be generating more at a greater bandwidth of the water level.
That's what John
I hope
told
I
me.
answered your question.
John told me the same thing. That's why the only reason I brought it up.
So-
That's good. If I told you the same thing he did, I might actually know.
You were testing it.
I was just checking it out. Make sure.
So I got a few questions on that one too. I mean, the transformers, yeah, we gotta do that. We gotta keep our own supply chain kinda going as best we can. So I'm definitely, we need to do that. Got a little more questions about where, I mean, we haven't really had, I mean, we've worked around the edges on this idea of redoing the hydro dam. I mean, want to make sure, one, I know we're going through our first relicensing process right now. Is that, if we move down this road to add some more turbines in there, how is it going to affect that process? I don't want to, I mean, do we have the capacity to do this under our current license that we're just trying to get renewed, or are we trying to actually change our license with FERC? See, these are the types of questions, I mean, I don't know if we need to hold off on that.
Actually, I think that is part of the consideration that will be addressed by the feasibility study itself as to the amendment that would be necessary.
Okay.
But staff feels very strongly that the potential benefits of this would outweigh those costs.
Okay. But we have no idea what those costs yet. We haven't got, because that would be.
This is the
coming out
first
of
step to see if it's
feasibility
even feasible, which we don't know.
So is the same group doing this that is doing the relicensing piece, or is it?
That's
it
correct.
is, so it's kind of in conjunction. Was that some of their recommendations as well, or just?
It's been a long time discussion at the staff level.
Okay, all right. All right. This is just finding out information.
Correct.
So, so basically, we're getting ready to go to contract with them, and the final price was $40,000 more. Is that kind of what, is that, Ann, is that what's going on? Well, we got a little bit of cash in the electric utility, so I guess,
It's okay.
all right. All right, you answered my question.
I'm not an engineer, but I went to an engineering college.
Anybody else? Roll call.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mr. Carson? Mr. Haley?
Aye.
Mr. Hartwick?
Aye.
Mr. Johansson?
Aye.
Mr. Show?
Aye.
Mayor Black?
Aye.
Motion carries with 7 ayes.
Anybody else got anything else? All right, we're adjourned.
Good meeting.